Hello everyone and welcome to SUNUP. I'm Lyndall Stout. We're on the road today just north of Renfro at the Kansas state line for the start of SUNUP's annual wheat tour. This year we're traveling along Highway 81 north to south, which runs parallel of course to the historic Chisholm Trail, to see how Oklahoma's wheat crop is doing. Let's get started.
Hi there, Jeff.
Hello, how are you?
I'm doing well, and you?
Doing well.
Good. Well, we're here in Grant County. Tell us about kind of how the wheat's looking across Grant County.
Well, we're getting pretty excited. We've certainly seen a much improved crop in the last month. These late rains and the cool weather's really helped this crop really turn around to the point where we feel really comfortable about what's going to come in.
And the wheat's already turning. It seems like it's a little early this year.
It is, slightly. Without the rain and the cool weather, it would have been really early. But this has provided us an opportunity to get the crop that this area very much needs.
It's kind of nice to see so many acres of wheat compared to years past where we really haven't had that across the state.
Yeah, we've tried some alternative crops, but it seemed like this year it just made sense for a lot of them to plant wheat, and that's what they've done.
Now tell us about kind of what are you hearing from producers as far as about their excitement with the wheat?
There's certainly some enthusiasm. We're feeling really good about this crop. The heads are filling really nicely. We're expecting a good quality wheat. Test weight should be good, which is only going to help bushels also. So they're starting to develop some enthusiasm.
Now, are you guys prepared for the influx of all the wheat coming in?
We are. We welcome the challenge.
Yeah.
Anytime we can have a good harvest, we're going to welcome that, and we're always prepared.
How many bushels can you hold here at the Pond Creek facility?
This is a 1 million bushel facility here. Mm-hmm. We were pretty much prepared today. But we still continue to get prepared for harvest.
How many trucks will come through here whenever harvest gets underway?
I'm hoping for a good harvest, I would anticipate seeing 80 to 100 trucks a day.
Wow. Coming across these scales, getting the sample, and then going in the bin.
1,000 bushels at a time. After a couple of tough years,
yeah,
we're ready to have a good crop.
Excellent. Well, thank you much, Jeff. We'll let you get back to it. We'll try to catch up with you again up this way whenever the combines start rolling.
All right.
Excellent. Thank you.
Appreciate it.
In Oklahoma, we're always glad for the rain because we've certainly seen the other side of that coin way too often. But sometimes we wish the timing of the rain was just a little bit better, especially if we're one of those that's putting up a cool season hay crop, such things as fescue or wheat hay. As we're putting up that hay, we need to be really careful about how much moisture is being caught up in the bale as we're storing this hay crop. Understanding what happens with wet hay, I think, is pretty important for producers that are putting up hay at this time of the year. If that hay is pretty high in moisture, then the first chemical or biochemical reactions that take place just due to changes in the hay crop itself inside that bale will cause the temperature to rise, and it may get as warm as 110 to 120 degrees just due to changes in the hay itself, and at that point in time it's not really a problem. As it gets a little bit higher, a little bit warmer, especially in those situations where there's extra moisture in that hay, then microbial activity begins to take over, and then very rapid changes take place inside that hay bale and raise the temperature pretty rapidly from around 120 degrees to 150 degrees, and at that point in time then it can be pretty dangerous, and we need to be doing something about it if it gets that warm, because at that point then it changes even more rapidly due to the microbial activity from about 150 to 170, and almost immediately change and get as hot as 400 degrees inside that bale. That means, of course, that it's beginning to burn, and the chances of a hay fire are going up rather dramatically. So a couple of things to keep in mind. If we're storing some hay that we're a little bit concerned about this spring, perhaps being put up a little too wet, let's think about where we're going to store that hay. And certainly if we're thinking that this hay may be that one that could get pretty warm, we may want to do some testing to see if it's actually to the point to where we need to go ahead and pull those hay bales apart, spread them out, and cool them off before that hay fire does occur. If you're considering having to check some hay, I really want you to go to the SUNUP website, and we've got a link there to an E-extension fact sheet that's done basically at Penn State University. It'll give you a lot of good information about what happens with wet hay, so I think that's a real critical fact sheet for you to look at. Certainly, understanding this business of putting up wet hay can be real critical to the safety of yourself, the hay, the other hay crops, perhaps farm buildings. So let's get this done correctly this spring, and we'll have a successful outcome with the wheat hay or the fescue hay that we put up this year. Hey, we look forward to visiting with you again next week on SUNUP's Cow-Calf Corner.
Hi, Shane.
Hi, how are you?
Good. Thanks for having us out here in Kingfisher County.
You bet, ma'am, anytime.
Why don't we just kind of start by telling us how your crop's looking this year?
Well, so far we're fortunate this year in Kingfisher County. The moisture's been really good for us. I mean, the wheat, you know, we was talking about this last week, where we kind of headed out at. We thought we'd already be cutting wheat, but you know, the good part is we're not. We still got a good green tinge to it. So the field weather's been absolutely awesome for us, and I would guess sometime, depending on how the weather changes, probably middle to late next week, we'll be able to get into the field, hopefully.
Okay, it's pretty tall this year, it looks like.
We've had really good growth on the wheat this year. I mean, like I say, the berries it's filling very well this year for us, so we cannot complain at all. Mother Nature's been good to us.
Talk about how many acres you have and what you planted right in here.
We've got 1,250 acres of dry land wheat, and then we will double crop some of that wheat also. And basically, this is a field of Ruby Lee. We will come in and put anhydrous ammonia on during the summer, then we'll come back in and we'll run dry fertilizer through the drill. We run an air seeder. We'll run dry fertilizer through the air seeder, then we come back and top dress in the spring.
You talked a little bit about your management strategy. How have the inputs been versus the costs this year?
Oh, you know, that's always a challenge. And I mean, you know, of course, the price of wheat's going to be a challenge this year, but, you know, we're just thankful we're going to have some to cut this year, you know, because last year was so hit and miss. We were all over the board from one area to the other. And like I say, you know, we'll graze cattle too, and I mean, we managed to graze, had good grazing this year. Everything of that worked well, so we can't complain too much.
And you think you'll get into the field in about a week, 10 days?
I would say 10 days is probably going to be more like it, unless, you know, something happens and we turn a little hotter and a little drier, and then if we turn a little hot and dry, it could happen really quick.
The cool temperatures though and all the rain, that's been nice.
That's been very nice, very nice. We cannot ask for any better chance for it to make a crop than what we've had so far.
And for a person like you who's been growing wheat a long time, is this really kind of your favorite part of year when you're getting ready to get those combines all tuned up and head out here and spend some long days and evenings out in these fields?
It's probably the nervous time of year till we can get started and get going. That's when we really want it to happen. We can get started and get the combines in the field and get rolling. That's when it gets good. So.
Okay, well, best of luck. Shane, thanks for letting us come out.
Thank you, ma'am. Appreciate it.
Hi, I'm Al Sutherland with your Mesonet weather report. You've seen some super wheat tour stops. A chart of nearby Oklahoma Mesonet sites gives us a look at season-long degree-day heat units at those locations. Medford had the least number of heat units based on a planting date of October 1st, 4,480 degree-day heat units. Kingfisher had 7% more heat units. Farther south, Minco recorded 10% more heat units than Medford. Leaping south close to the Red River, Waurika recorded 26% more heat units than Medford. Those heat units point to why we see so much difference in wheat maturity from north to south. Damaging storms popped up and hovered this week. That gave us some rainfall rates that brought on flooding, when nearby Mesonet sites showed a lot less. On a map of rainfall from Sunday evening through Wednesday evening, Lane and Atoka came in close to the same with near 1 3/10 inches of rain. But just to the north, radar indicated a large area with over 4 inches of rain and a small spot with over 8 inches. And notice all of the odd patterns of green indicating areas with more than an inch of rain. That's due to some scattered, slow-moving storm cells. We hope this week's damaging hail, winds, and floods missed you and your family. Here's Gary with a look at our rainfall impact on drought.
Thanks, Alan. Good morning, everyone. I certainly hope you made it through this week safe from all the severe weather, but we also got some rainfall with that severe weather, and that was beneficial. Let's take a look at the latest U.S. Drought Monitor map and see what we have. As you can see, no drought exists within Oklahoma. Finally, after several months, we got rid of that drought across far western Oklahoma. Now we just have a little bit of abnormally dry conditions, and with a little bit of rain, we can get rid of that too. Now let's take a look at the precipitation outlooks from the Climate Prediction Center. This first one is for June, and we see increased odds of above normal precipitation across the entire state. It's not greatly increased odds, but it is above normal, and June is a wet month anyway, so we should get some good precipitation if this comes true. Now let's look at the June through August time frame. This is for June, July, August. We see increased odds of above normal precipitation for the northern half to 1/3 of the state. Again, not greatly increased, but above normal is expected in that area. Now for the U.S. seasonal drought outlook, that's for June through the end of August, we also see no indications of drought development across the state of Oklahoma, which would be wonderful news. Now, while that drought outlook shows no drought developing, we all know that drought can develop very quickly in Oklahoma during the summer in what's called a flash drought. So that's something we're going to have to watch out for. That's it for this time. We'll see you next time on the Mesonet Weather Report.
Howdy, Cale.
How are you, Dave?
I'm well. How are you?
Doing good.
Good, good, good. Well, I see you have wheat here in the county, and it's It's looking pretty okay.
It's not looking too bad. We've got some that looks pretty good, and we've got some that's not the best,
Right.
but.
So what are we looking at here?
We're looking at some endurance here. This year we planted Dones, some endurance and some Garrison, and everything so far has looked pretty good. We had to spray about 75% of our wheat this year with some insecticide and some fungicide. Just another thing to add into the bottom line this year, but about everything needed it.
Now, how many acres are you running?
We planted 2850 this year, so we'll graze out about 1,200 acres of that, and then we've cut some for hay that had rye and ryegrass in it. So we'll probably combine maybe 1,600 this year, 1,500. So
now, when do you think you'll start hitting the field?
You know, if you'd asked a month ago, everybody thought we'd be starting super early. Now we're looking, I'd say maybe first week of June. With the weather we're going to have this week, I would say, you know, the wheat's not going to dry out a whole lot. You know, people were thinking it'd be a week or two before June, and I'm going to say about the 1st of June we'll probably start. So it depends on the variety too.
As we've been coming south, I mean, just about Enid, that's where it started really turning gold, and the further that we've come south, it's been pretty consistent. It really hasn't turned any darker than that.
Right. Yeah, I think, you know, if you've got a variety planted that's an early variety this year and you don't have much green in it, I mean, I think you could get in there pretty quick. So.
And what I have to ask, did you do the nitrogen? Did you do all of the inputs on that?
We did. So
yeah.
In a year like this, you know, it's just part of it. But I think last I looked at the elevator, it was like 370 something's what wheat was going for. You know, it don't make it very fun getting the combine out, but it's part of it. So.
What's been your biggest the biggest pressure for you this year?
Oh, probably the competition with the ryegrass and the rye that we've had. You know, we've got our rye under control. You know, we've been working on that for several years now. We've done pretty good on that. We've got a couple places where the neighbors have got it horrible and it's still on us, and then we've got places that we're going to have to rotate it out or do something else. But the ryegrass is what we're starting to have a pretty consistent problem with that we're going to have to address and do something about.
Okay, well, Cale, thank you much, and I tell you what, we can't wait to see this crop actually make it into the bin.
Well, hopefully it does good.
Yeah. So. Well, thanks for visiting with us.
You bet.
Hi, Lyndall.
How are you, ma'am?
Good. Thanks for having us out.
Well, I'm glad you could come down.
Tell us how your wheat's doing out here.
It's doing fairly well. It's a good crop, but the weather's not cooperating too much right at this time.
Is that kind of the story of a farmer's life?
Yes, it is. It is. We're kind of get used to that after so many years, you know. Don't like it, but we get used to it.
You've gotten quite a bit of rain lately.
Yes, we have. And we've gotten quite a bit of wind and been fortunate not to get so much hail. We've had a little hail. You find one now and then with the few kernels knocked out, but we've been fortunate. We haven't lost a crop yet. The thing that's bothering us more now is the weather holding us out. We're within a week to 10 days time to harvest, and we've got a lot of green stuff coming. The wheat's going down from the high winds, and we're getting ryegrass coming up in there. It's going to be green and cause a little moisture in it. Another thing, it kind of concerns me, if it keeps this raining up, it may go sprouting in the head. Hope not, but it can happen. It has happened.
You grazed cattle on this pasture?
Yes, I do. I graze till the 1st of March, pull the cattle off the 1st of March. It works good. Takes a lot of time, but it makes the wheat go a lot further. And we don't trump it. I didn't graze this enough. I had 50 head on this one 50-acre field. 2-3 hours a day, whatever it took, or whatever I could get around to get them off. Anyway, I could have run 100. It's easy. It was good. We've had enough moisture. Things did good. And I fertilize pretty heavy. I use a lot of fertilizer. And I soil test every year and see what I need.
Right. A good growing year, better than last year?
Yes. Last year was a pretty good fall. We got just enough to get by. We didn't have the problem till May last year, and we had 20 inches of rain in May last year down here, and it was tough. And the wheat was not nearly as good as it is this year. Now, we haven't gotten it yet. Wheat, you never measure till you cross the scales, but it looks better. And we have the heads that feel better, and most all of it has a third mash in it, which the third mash is that other row of grain up through there that a lot of times we don't have. So that helps our yield a lot.
Lyndall, it's nice to meet another fellow Lyndall, and we wish you all the best with harvest this year.
Well, thank you so much.
Okay.
Well, we've seen the Oklahoma wheat crop. Now, Kim, let's talk about wheat prices.
Well, prices are low, and producers are concerned about the price, somewhere around $3.80 a bushel. You look at the basis, it's a minus 45 cents in Enid. Mostly around the state, around a minus 70, some places a little lower, some up to a minus 80. The KC July contract around $4.50, so that gives you a cash price of around $3.80. But if you look out towards December and look at that December contract, it's at about 40 cents higher than that July contract at $4.90. The basis going out that time period, it normally improves. So that futures contract is telling us that prices are expected to increase at least 40 cents, and we should get a dime to 20 cent increase in the basis. So we may see a 60 cent price increase between now and December. Of course, if we have that record world crop, it could put the Quahitas on all of this positive outlook.
So whenever we're thinking of the third and the third and the third, that's where does that play in?
Well, I think you should come in this year if you can afford it, maybe a fourth, and then the other 3/4 out over the September, October, November, December time period. A lot could happen in the world. We've been talking about world expectations going down recently. They've been raising everybody's world wheat production.
Okay, let's talk about some of the other crops that are in the ground right now. Kim, where are we standing with corn?
Well, you look at corn, that price has been increasing. It went from $3.50 on the futures contract to $4.20. The panhandle basis is 15 under that. That gives you 405 corn in the base in the panhandle. You look at central Oklahoma, minus 67 to a minus 50, so using a minus 60 there gives you about somewhere around $3.50 price of corn for harvest delivery here in central Oklahoma. If you look at sorghum, it's about in the panhandle 50 cents less than corn. In central Oklahoma, it's 30 cents less than corn.
Another crop that's on producers' minds is soybeans. Where are we looking?
And soybeans have been going up like gangbusters, led by the soy meal that's went from $270 a ton up to $410 a ton. Your beans futures prices went from $8.70 to $10.80. You know, it's currently around $10.50, something like that. Your basis around the state for harvest delivery is a minus 75 cents. That gives you about $7.95 for harvest delivered beans right now. In the panhandle, it's $1 under, so you'd have about $9.50 beans at harvest.
Okay, thank you much, Kim. And now with a look at the overall wheat crop, we have the new small grains extension specialist, David Marburger.
Kind of the big thing that we've been hearing from a lot of the producers in terms of the crop this year, their biggest concern, I guess, has been disease overall in general. Been seeing a lot of disease this year, especially stripe rust. We've seen a lot of stripe rust this year. The conditions for it have just been favorable for that disease. Overall, a little bit cooler and a little bit wetter compared to other years, and those are those conditions that favor that pathogen. Another big issue we've been seeing has been weeds, especially more of our grass weeds. We've seen a lot of feral rye in some fields, as well as Italian ryegrass. And as our wheat crop continues to mature and those leaves senesce, those weeds are a lot easier to see, and those weeds will begin to grow as well, and we'll probably see some more. And as we continue to get closer to harvest, if harvest does keep getting delayed, if we keep getting some of these rains, growers may have to think about going out there with a pre-harvest aid to help control some of those weeds. This is also a good opportunity as the wheat is maturing to go out there and scout for those different weeds and see what types of weeds do you have out in your field, as well as how prevalent they are. It can help you with making your decisions if you're going a double crop this year, if you're going to go into wheat for the 16-17 season, and help you be able to make better decisions on how to control those weeds. But other than that, no, as we get started here with harvest, the crop down south is pretty close, especially on some of our more earlier maturing varieties. We may hear of some reports of some wheat being taken off before Memorial Day here, but I would suspect with those later maturing varieties that'd be more later next week, and as we move further north, that will be delayed kind of in more of that second week of June, more than likely.
We've made it to the Red River, and that just about does it for the 2016 SUNUP Wheat Tour. We hope you've enjoyed it as much as we have. And that'll do it for SUNUP this week. Remember, you can find us anytime online at sunup.okstate.edu, and also follow us on YouTube and social media. From the Texas State Line, I'm Lyndall Stout. We're going to head back north now, and we'll see you next time at SUNUP.